Would you pay millions of dollars for digital artwork? Welcome to the world of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. Just this year so far, about 1.3 billion of NFTs have traded through the Ethereum network, dwarfing the activity last year. The biggest transaction was an NFT purchased for $69.3 million. Sounds unbelievable? Let's find out more about this hottest new asset class. Hi, this is Spencer, founder of Synapse Trading, and I've been trading and traveling across the world to teach and inspire others how to do the same. In this video, I'm going to talk about non-fungible tokens, or NFTs for short, what they are, how they work, and how to buy or sell them. So, what are non-fungible tokens? Firstly, to understand what fungible means, let's look at the concept of normal fiat currency. If you have a $10 bill, that bill is fungible because it is completely interchangeable with another $10 bill. Every bill has the same value and there's nothing unique about it. Similarly, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are also fungible, meaning one Bitcoin is interchangeable for any other Bitcoin and has exactly the same value. On the other hand, NFTs, which rely on special token standards using blockchain technology to ensure uniqueness, are non-interchangeable and each token is unique. In this way, NFTs are like digital artworks or collectibles because they are one of a kind and ownership is locked to one particular person, basically the owner or the buyer, making every piece a unique and limited edition piece of work. Think of it like a digital passport that comes with an asset, say Nadia Ivanova, COO of research firm Natalia. They allow for this trust and authenticity to be established in a way that we haven't been able to do before, whether it's with physical assets or digital assets. So how do NFTs work? NFTs are actually cryptographic tokens with unique identification codes and metadata that make them unique. Created on a smart contract platform such as Ethereum, these tokens are unique and cannot be replicated. This means that when you buy an NFT, you are essentially buying lines of code on a blockchain. But these lines of code do have value. They represent proof of ownership and authenticity of these digital artworks and assets, that this asset you own is uniquely and authentically yours. This blockchain, which is a type of decentralized record keeping on a public ledger of blocks, means that the whole world knows who officially owns the NFT. And because it is decentralized, multiple records are stored all over the place, so it's impossible to hack the network to steal ownership of the NFT. And since an NFT's uniqueness and ownership can be easily verified, and they ensure strong property rights which cannot be stolen, they can be efficiently traded on the secondary market. As a result, this new asset class can empower creators such as artists, developers, in a variety of new ways that weren't possible before, allowing them to monetize their creations more directly. Next, what are the different types of NFTs? Back in 2017, we saw the first NFTs in projects such as CryptoPunks and CryptoKitties, where blockchain technology was used to sell online collectibles. Since then, the industry has bloomed into a wide variety of new use cases and industries with a market exceeding $1 billion. NFTs can be used to tokenize just about anything, and so far some of the most popular NFT use cases have been things like gaming assets, attendance receipts or event tickets, subscription badges, digital art, blockchain domain names, tokenized insurance policies, tokenized luxury goods, digital music, virtual real estate, and VR wearables. Here are some recent examples of NFT artworks and related products that have been sold, proving that this is a potential multi-billion-dollar or even trillion-dollar market. NBA's Top Shot is an NFT-based trading card system, and he has locked in over $230 million in sales. One of the artworks by Beeple has sold for $69.3 million, and the exclusive NFT version of the latest album by Kings of Leon sold for $2 million. There's even a Nyan Cat meme that sold for $590,000. And the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, recently auctioned his first tweet ever on the Twitter platform to raise money for charity. The tweet, which said, "Just setting up my Twitter," was first published on March 21st, 2006 and was sold for $2.9 billion. So are NFTs a scam? Why would anyone buy NFTs? When you buy an NFT, what you are getting is a unique cryptocurrency token on the blockchain. Some NFTs have only one version, so it's like owning the authentic version of a famous artwork such as the Mona Lisa. However, things can get a little confusing here because there are also NFTs which are digital versions of the reprints, kind of like what you see in Pokemon cards where each card is printed multiple times. But for each NFT, there is still a unique watermark, which is the code. So if yours is the original or limited edition, then the property rights or IP of the digital asset belongs to you. For example, the Nyan Cat meme is freely available to anyone who wants to download a copy of it, but none of these downloads are the real Nyan Cat NFT, which is worth 300 Ethereum. In the jargon of the art world, the difference is like owning an original versus owning a replica. In the art world, one of the biggest problems is fake artworks. However, because of blockchain technology, it is impossible to sell fakes of NFTs because anyone can easily check the online public ledger to see who owns the real original NFT. So in a sense, it's actually safer than physical artworks. So how much is an NFT worth and what are the risks of investing in one? So how much should you pay for an NFT or how much should you sell one for? Just like dealing in valuable art pieces or collectibles, this answer is tricky because the value is totally dependent on supply and demand. An art piece or collectible is only worth as much as what the next person is willing to buy it for. So using that as a benchmark, you want to look out for things like artist reputation, scarcity, and provenance, including the origin and past transactions. You can try to benchmark it against other similar pieces by the same artists or other products in the same genre, but at the end of the day, the worth is determined by the market. Hence, you want to make sure there is still interest and other buyers for your NFT should and when you decide to sell it in the future. The biggest risk is that should the NFT craze turn out to be a bubble, kind of like the game of pass the bomb, then you don't want to be the fool left with a bunch of worthless NFTs which you paid a lot for. However, since this is still the early phase, the risk of this happening is less, but the risk of a potential bubble increases if prices for popular NFTs keep increasing exponentially, akin to the tulip mania. Another risk is that because NFTs are transacted in cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum, the prices of NFTs are very likely tied to the price fluctuations of the cryptocurrency. So if you have noticed, there are sort of two different segments of NFTs. One is the super expensive NFTs of rare digital artworks or collectibles, while the other is the more down-to-earth retail market for common folks to sell, access useful products and services. For the former, just like the market for valuable artworks and collectibles, I feel that it's somewhat of a playground for rich investors to speculate and not really meant for the typical retail investor. Next, how to create and mint NFTs. Even though you don't have millions of dollars to speculate on NFTs, you can still take advantage of this trend by creating and selling your own NFTs. If you have already tried uploading photos or videos on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, then you already know how to create digital artwork. The difference is that after creating your artwork, there is one extra step called minting to turn your creation into an official NFT. To do that, you can use one of the many NFT minting platforms around the Ethereum ecosystem. Each has its own pros and cons and different fees. DIY or do-it-yourself minting platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, Infi, NFT, Mintbase, and Cargo lets creators easily and permissionlessly mint their own NFTs. On the higher end, there are some exclusive membership-only NFT minting platforms to which creators have to apply and be accepted before they can mint through these platforms, such as SuperRare and Async Art. Once you have decided on your platform, you will need to upload your artwork, fill in a description, and decide whether you want to create a standalone or edition-based piece, your assets royalty percentage, unlockable content, etc. Finally, you will need to make payment via Ethereum for the approval and minting process to commence. How to buy and sell non-fungible tokens or NFTs. Now that you have created your own NFT, the next step is to find a marketplace to sell it. Thankfully, there is already such an ecosystem set up with open marketplace platforms like OpenSea, Nifty Gateway for art, Decentraland, Engine for games, Yellow Heart for concert tickets, and NBA Top Shot for NBA collectibles, SuperRare for art, and Rarible, where you can list your NFTs for sale easily depending on which category your NFT falls under. Payments are done via Ethereum as well, so you will need to connect your wallet to the platform in order to buy or sell any NFTs. What are some of the current drawbacks of this NFT system? Number one, high transaction fees via the Ethereum gas price. If you recall in the previous segments where we talked about minting, buying and selling NFTs, there were transaction fees involved. One problem is that these transaction fees can be quite high. As most NFTs are on the Ethereum blockchain platform, each transaction requires the payment of gas, which is the fee charged for processing a transaction or contract on the Ethereum blockchain network. This fee is denominated in Gwei, a small fraction of Ethereum. Hopefully, as the market matures and more competition comes in, the fees for this transaction costs will fall as well. Number two, the environmental impact. Currently, Ethereum still operates on the proof-of-work architecture that requires mining, which consumes a large amount of electricity and leaves a large carbon footprint. To put this into context, the amount of electricity that Ethereum network consumes rivals that of countries like Ecuador with a population of about 17.4 million. Since almost all NFTs transactions involve Ethereum, this will undoubtedly contribute to the usage of the network and electrical consumption. Hopefully, Ethereum will be transitioning to a more eco-friendly proof-of-stake architecture soon, although progress has been slow since this idea was first put forth years ago. Here are my concluding thoughts on NFTs. Currently, the NFT transactions attracting all the hype are the super expensive transactions, similar to value artworks or rare collectibles. While this garner the headlines, the more relevant applications NFTs could lie in empowering independent creators such as artists and developers to directly monetize their creations. The huge potential also lies in the myriad of products and services which businesses, both small and large, can create or tie in with their existing offerings in the offline world. This means that in a couple of years, many of these products and services could become commonplace in our lives, unlocking a $1 trillion market opportunity. Now that I've shared all you need to know about NFTs, what do you think of this new asset class? Is it a bubble or is it here to stay? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, do remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to receive the latest updates. That's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.